The young Panthers at times looked overwhelmed and outmatched, but they kept fighting and even found themselves on the winning side.
You're Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into this Thursday, September 25th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez from the Hockey News. You can follow me on X at Monoman12. Follow the show account anywhere you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. Shout out to the everydayers who come back here and get your daily Florida Panthers fix. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app right now by visiting FanDuel.com and winning $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. You can do that all on FanDuel. So, Panther fans, grateful to be back here once again on another edition of the show to discuss everything in the world of the Florida Panthers. And even on a night like tonight, we're recording this just a few hours after the Panthers defeated the Carolina Hurricanes in Game 3 of the preseason by a final score of 4-2, as the young Panthers went up against an experienced lineup in the Carolina Hurricanes. The Panthers got a chance to see the new look Hurricanes, adding Nikolai Ehlers and mixing in with the group of Sebastian Aho and Andrei Svechnikov there, while the Panthers were putting a mostly AHL roster together for Wednesday night's game and being outshot by over 33 for the Panthers and going down 2-0 early on. The Panthers 3 goals in the final period to find a way to win it 4-2. And Danil Tarasov was the story of the game, making 36 straight saves to end the game. The Panthers were down on a 5-on-3 early. The Danil Tarasov was reading the high to low plays really well. A lot of times the Panthers were also giving up a fair share of breakaways, where the left to right movement for Danil Tarasov was great as well. And then one of the best saves that he made was on Bradley Nadeau, another great one on Sebastian Aho with the right leg. And man, was it a great night for Danil Tarasov. And man, does the backup goaltending look great. And hopefully for the Panthers, it's an opportunity to not miss a beat in that department, as the Panthers have been really in their franchise history they have had an embarrassment of riches when it comes to the goaltending, and sometimes pretty great backup goaltending. I mean, even in these last four or 5 years for the Panthers, when it wasn't Sergei Bobrovsky in between the net, Chris Drieger, Spencer Knight, Anthony Stolarz, and then last year, parts of last year were Spencer Knight and then Vitek Vanacek at times for the Panthers. I mean, they've had that embarrassment of riches, but this night was all about the Danil Tarasov for the Panthers. I mean, even the broadcast even talked about how Sergei Bobrovsky, in his interview with Katie Engelson, would skip school to watch Danil Tarasov's dad practice, to watch his technique. And once again, a full circle moment for the Panthers goaltending department, and Danil Tarasov performing well, although in the first game that he performed against the Nashville Predators in that second end of the doubleheader, 15 of 18, where he gave up 2 goals on the PK, and then the 1 goal at 5-on-5, it was through a screen. The Panthers gave up the early one against Suzuki, where it was through screen, and Ryan Suzuki, where it was right as Ben Harper and former Panther Giovanni Smith were dropped the gloves simultaneously as that was going on, and through traffic as well. And then the second goal, where it was a poor pass from Mike Benning to Ben Harper, and Ben Harper was not able to handle the puck. The forechecker was already coming, and then the top line of the Carolina Hurricanes were able to get it in the back of the net at 16:20 of the first period. But then, although it was a 2-0 lead, and although the Panthers found a way to win this, I mean, the Panthers were still struggling getting the puck deep and getting their forecheck going. Only 2 shots on goal in the first period, and I mean, doubling it up in the second period, and then finding a way to at least get progress more and more as the Panthers were exiting out of their zone a lot easier as the game went on. But I mean, this is what happens when you're playing a young when you're a young team, and then you're playing against a team that's really expected to make another run at the Eastern Conference Final. At least in the Carolina Hurricanes, they're once again trying to get over the hump. And the Panthers, I mean, you got to give them a lot of credit for still fighting. I mean, yeah, there was a goaltending change from the second period to the third period. Freddie Anderson's started the first 40 minutes, and then Amir Michnikov. Let me make sure I'm pronouncing that name correctly. Amir Miftakov, who has never actually played an NHL game, stepped in the final 20 minutes. And then the Panthers, how they scored their goals, getting in on the forecheck. Noah Gregor is late in his shift and then worked the low to high play, and then Ben Harper scores through a screen, and then Noah Gregor getting in on the forecheck once again, and then Mithnikov mishandling the puck, and then Grayson Sachin setting him up for the go-ahead goal, and then the Panthers cap it off with an empty net. So that's really the story of that when it comes to the Panthers defeating the Carolina Hurricanes. It's a opportunity to feel good. And I mean, the positioning of Mithnikov in both of those situations where mishandling the puck, but also how he positioned himself with the reverse VH. I mean, he had the stick at a different angle that allowed the Mike Benning, although Mike Benning had a centering feed taken away, it was a double deflection off the stick and then off the pad. So might want to close that arm a little closer to the body. So although he was shooting into the far side, you want that a little bit more close so you avoid those double deflections. But hey, you don't apologize for wins in the case of the Florida Panthers there. And I mean, you think about the different you think about all the lines that the Panthers put together in this one. Some experience along with some inexperience as well. Jack Studnicka was the experienced guy on the Divine St. Martin line. Tyler Mott, who actually didn't play in the third period, who had an injury. We'll get more to that later. Tyler Mott and Noah Gregor were the guys on the same line as Grayson Sachin. So it wasn't all experienced guys together. It wasn't all experienced guys together. So it was a mix of everyone else. And even for the fourth line, the whole college line of McAllister, Chorsky, and McClinsky there for the Panthers. So it was a little bit of a mix of everything for the Panthers on how they put it all on Wednesday night for this win. But yeah, it was an ugly one. It's not one that you look at and say, okay, if the Panthers play like this every single night, it's gonna result in a win. But the fact is that when you have a roster that you put together like this, that is, although the chances are pretty low of some guys making the team, you at least want to at least make a lasting impression on the coaching staff. And that's also where the culture comes in for this Panthers team, going up and down from the top guys to the front office to the 13th forward, 7th defenseman, and even guys trickling down to the AHL roster for these guys. And you got to be definitely encouraged if you're a Florida Panthers fan, just being able to watch this game and still seeing the fight. It wasn't the prettiest of games. I mean, you're looking at if my math is correct there for the Panthers in this game, a total of 16 shots, and just very perimeter based and having a hard time just battling it along the corners, and even their net front battles, not a lot of second chance opportunities that the Panthers were able to get on the evening. So you know, that's going to come whenever you are used to facing a certain types of players in the case of the American League for half of these players versus the big boys. So got to give credit where credit is due for it. And I even messaged the host of Locked On Canes, Locked On Hurricanes, saying that was a whole lot of stupid for how that game ended. And then he's like, yeah. And then he replied saying, yeah, that's the gong show that is the preseason. So You probably won't see these happen often during a regular season game, but hey, you definitely do not apologize for wins if you are the Florida Panthers in this case. But we're going to transition over to segment number 2, where we're going to discuss who proved themselves a little more and who hurt themselves more in this contest after tonight. We're going to discuss that and more next here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. And the NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 if your first bet wins. You'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. Player props, building a same-game parlay, and even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy matchup. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to Sundays. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app right now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day here on a Thursday edition of the show, where the Florida Panthers defeated the Carolina Hurricanes by a final score of 4-2 in Game 3 of the preseason. So let's discuss more of who proved themselves more in this game and also who hurt themselves with their chances in this one. So I want to start with a guy who, he got 2 points on the night, but I felt at times he really, truly struggled at points in this game. Mike Benning, the 3 goals in the 2 games is nice. He got also an assist on the a primary assist on Ben Harper's goal. But I thought that he was really caught in no man's land quite a bit tonight. With, like I mentioned in the first segment, when he had that backhand pass when he was coming in to support Ben Harper, which the puck was trickling from the neutral zone into the Panthers' end. He was there for support, casually just backhanded it, where he had support from Liam McKinsley on the other corner. Although there was already a forechecker coming, the puck could have went back to his backhand. And although Svechnikov was ready to block the pass for the support to McKinsley, I believe that there was still a little bit of time to at least rim it around to get it back from the far side corner to the near side for Mike Benning there. So he put Ben Harper in a little bit of a bad position for that second goal, of the game. Ben Harper, I thought he looked a lot better in this game than he did in game number 1. And he had that fight simultaneously with Giovanni Smith. And when you're on a PTO, I'm not against fighting in hockey. I think that players need an opportunity to police themselves when someone acts up. But when you're on a PTO and trying to prove yourself and trying to make a roster, I think you should stay away from that, in my opinion, when you're trying to make a team. And those are 5 minutes that Ben Harper lost in this game. But the times that he was at least covering in his own end, I thought he looked a lot better once he did come back from that fighting major for him, and also getting the goal, and also blocking that centering feed on the 6-on-5 at the very end, which eventually Jack Stanika eventually nailed there to ice the game. Tobias Bjornfoot, you see constantly why the Panthers are so high on him and constantly want to call him up every single time that there is the case of an injury situation or using him as an 8th defenseman. So he is truly the Panthers' insurance policy. The Panthers were in a heck of a lot of penalty trouble, which I didn't even mention that Mike Benning broke his stick once and led to an odd man rush, and then the other one lost his stick and then was called for holding. So that's another thing about how much Mike Benning truly struggled on the night. But going back to Tobias Bjornfoot, and when the Panthers were on the PK, he was one of the Panthers who were closing the gaps the most and getting those quick taps out for the opposing power play to reset at the blue line, which I'm starting to see more and more as I see Tobias Bjornfot play more hockey games. I was okay. This is why the Panthers are so high on him. First round pick. Yeah, he's been from team to team, LA, VGK, and then eventually with the Florida Panthers, which now these last 2 years, he's got a little bit of a taste of not necessarily, although he hasn't been on the ice, he's experienced those long playoff runs, and this guy is still quite looking for an opportunity there for him. And I mean, he's also been very quick on his breakout passes, and if you got to know, I got to tell you how the importance of breakout passes when it comes to defensemen in their D zone. So obviously, if you're the majority of people who are listening to this are Panther fans, and the majority of you guys listening might also be from the South Florida market. So you hear all the time, if you're a football fan, about the quarterback Tua Tagovailoa and his ability to pass the ball within 2 seconds of snapping it. So if you're snapping the ball and you're passing quickly to your wide receiver, the chances of you getting hit and getting sacked or a fumble are less likely. It's the same thing when it comes to defensemen and getting that first breakout pass out, which the Panthers are truly known for, which you give yourself an opportunity to avoid a forechecker, and then there's not those one-on-ones against the goaltender, and then even if they make the original save, there's that second chance opportunity for them before the defenseman could cover up again, because you never know if they're number one, their momentum is carrying them from that original pass out that could get intercepted, or B, they have to circle back if they're going a little bit east west, and if they're a left-handed shot playing on their offside, your fastest way might be circling and then getting into a position where you'll have to slide depending on where that breakout pass happens as well. So that's the importance of that first breakout pass out of the D zone for the Panthers. I hope that was a good description for you guys there, and make you guys maybe understand that a little better. But another player that was very impressive for me, Noah Gregor. Like I said, he was very ferocious and relentless on the forecheck on that second goal, on the third goal for the Panthers, that was into an open net. You don't see that every single day, but even the first one, the second one, where he's battling out in the corner. It's also late in his shift as well. He's not on that line with McKinsley and Mackenzie Entwistle, and he's late. He's going in on that check, on the forecheck. He actually gets high stick, then it doesn't get called. The referee's on the far side while he's battling on the near side corner. So the official doesn't have necessarily the best angle as the defender has his numbers and the back towards the referee. So they don't always necessarily catch that, but able to rim it back to McKinsley, work it up high, and then getting it to Ben Harper for that goal for the Panthers to get their first goal on the game in the third period. But Hunter St. Martin, another one who it's funny because the breakout that he had in last year's rookie showcase and then carrying it over to the preseason, you sometimes have to. I sometimes tell myself, okay, don't get don't get too high on a 6th-round pick. Don't attach yourself too much on one. But I see constantly over and over again about how great this guy's hands are and how much he battles whenever he does gain the zone, and then the Carolina Hurricanes were coming over to pin him against the half one. He's still going through them and still keeping the puck on his stick. And then when he beats a defend the forward, and then has himself against the defender where he's on the right side of the ice, and the defender is coming, he's protecting the puck really well, getting it on his forehand. And then on his backhand, and then bringing it back as he's lowering his shoulder and still getting a little bit of a shot angle there. So I'm also very impressed by Hunter St. Martin. So not necessarily improving his chances of making the roster. He still needs, I believe, a full season in the AHL. But he's still creating quite an impression. Noah Gregor has a little bit of a tougher spot in order to make the roster, and the fact is that he plays wing as opposed to center. And with the Panthers having the embarrassment of riches that they have, it's going to be tough, but he's definitely left quite a bit of the impression there. So I do think that his chances did go up. Tobias Bjornfot as well, Mike Benning. There's still a whole lot of upside. I don't want you guys to think that I'm down on Mike Benning. One bad game for him, but I do think that there's still a lot of something there for him. So hopefully he learns from this and also gets an opportunity to just improve after. But yeah, those are some of the players that I do believe that gave themselves a chance, but also some players who possibly hurt themselves as far as making the roster. Tyler Mott, Bill Zito went on to mention his name twice in his media availability and during media day, and the chances of him making the lineup. He plays center, and that's a position that the Panthers will need to fill through Thomas Nosek's injury for the fourth line. So, and the fact is that he didn't play in the third period. Paul Maurice did say that he did want to come back in, but he held them out due to maintenance reasons. So, doesn't seem that anything that is going to be for Tyler Mott to be out long term for the Panthers. So just a little bit of precaution that the Panthers wanted to put there. And also at the very end, let's not forget Colton Heward as the Panthers scored that empty netter. He hobbled off the ice, but there was no update for his status after the game. So we will look into that possibly when the veterans take the ice tomorrow from Fort Lauderdale. So we're going to transition over to segment number 3, where we're going to discuss the vets coming back, the cranking up of the intensity, and also something that the broadcast mentioned about the Panthers' approach to this preseason and how proactive they are being for the future. We'll discuss that and more next here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Segment number 3 here on this Thursday, September 25th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day here on a Thursday, as the Florida Panthers defeated the Carolina Hurricanes by a final score of 4-2 in preseason game number 3 from the Lenovo Center in Raleigh, North Carolina. So I'm excited once again for the season to start. We are 12 days away from the season as when this recording drops, and just the mindset of where the Panthers are, they're in a really good place. I mean, the young guns are gonna go to Charlotte feeling good and having that feeling once again of winning. And I just remember, this takes me back to a preseason game a few years ago. I believe it was 2021 or 2022 when the Panthers were facing off against the Dallas Stars, and their young guns found a way to get a win against a veteran group in Dallas that played that night. That was a lot to be proud of in that night. So these are some preseason games that some of them that you will find a way to remember years later. At least that's one that stuck out for me that that comes to memory for myself. But and Jessica Blaylock on the post-game show with Ed Jovanovski mentioned it. She said these guys are going to Charlotte with a winning mentality. But the Panthers' approach to camp, Randy Moller said it best in the pregame right before the puck drop, and he said that this camp with the new CBA will give the Panthers a leg up. It's not only about the rest for a group that has been to 3 straight Stanley Cup finals, going through 2 back-to-back championships and being the last team standing. This is the Panthers and their opportunity to be really proactive, and you're seeing you even see through these first 2 games who are the Panthers going up against veteran teams who are not going the distance all in June. I mean, Nashville didn't make the playoffs. The Carolina Hurricanes, this is a team that the Panthers have defeated in the conference finals 2 out of the last 3 years. So they're used to long playoff runs. I mean, the Carolina Hurricanes have the longest active streak of making the second round in the entirety of the NHL. The Panthers are the second longest active streak for those who want to know that stat. But that's the thing. You're seeing the Panthers, and here's the thing: individualized training is still a big priority for some of these guys. And like I mentioned in yesterday's show, the veterans were even scrimmaging against each other in Fort Lauderdale. So these guys are gonna still be ready and quite in game shape. And with the fact that preseason games next year will be going down to 4, uh, I mean, yeah, you'll only need 2 to get ready for the season because they're adding that 84 games as opposed to 82. You'll sacrifice 2 on the front end and the season starting earlier. So the fact is that you're cutting through all the you're cutting through everything else and just seeing who's on the bubble and who can make an impression. That's really the point in all of this. And the fact is that the once again the culture is goes from up top all the way to even the AHL guys, and hopefully to even down all the way to the ECHL for the Savannah Ghost Pirates there. So that's what I a takeaway from the night is that the culture is still very strong. And here's what and when it comes to the environment and the vibes that the Panthers want to put together here is something that Paul Maurice even mentioned uh, today during his media availability, saying, quote, "We try to create that environment for them so that they can have an enjoyable experience here. We would say if they worked as hard as they could, there would be nothing else for them to do, so they can enjoy the training camp," close quote. Yeah, you want to work hard. Yeah, you want to make an impression, but it's all about having fun. And Paul Maurice even talks about that when it's deep into the season, deep into the Stanley Cup final, saying, if you're not having fun while doing this, winning or losing, what are you here for? And the fact is, once again, that these guys get an opportunity to play a kid's game and make at least a six-figure income. A lot of them, maybe some of them even 7 or 8 figures, depending on who the player is. And it's a constant reminder of the position that they are in compared to to people working a desk job, or even myself as a remote worker. That's a reminder to the players of just to still have fun and that you get to do this for a living. And it's truly remarkable to see the guys, young, energetic, hungry, and they're in an organization that is winning on and off the ice when it comes to public perception, how they engage in the community, facilities, ownership that invests, everything for this Florida Panthers team. And you couldn't be more excited for what's to come uh, down the pipeline. And yeah, there's gonna be more emphasis on Charlotte this year of how the Panthers are gonna get through when the bill does come due. Because I mean, yeah, the bill is due because the Panthers are still $4.5 million over the cap and are have to try to find a way to shed that when Matthew Tkachuk is healthy enough to play. But you're still finding a way to have fun and still keep this team together while still building for the future, which that's the great thing about the development of these guys, which yeah, you're not going to be active at the trade line, but the fact is that you get a little bit of seasoning for the guys down in Charlotte and a little bit more experience. And these are your filling guys that you are going to be counting on. These are going to be like your Jake Gensels in Pittsburgh for their second consecutive Stanley Cup run. That's just one example that I'm naming. You're hopefully a Mackie Semiskevich who's making 775K, who's expected to be a big part of the Panthers' chances of three-peating and taking that next step forward. Those are going to be the guys that you are relying on. And once again, for the Panthers, it's about getting these guys ready, getting a Hunter St. Martin ready, getting a Grayson Sachin ready, a Jack Devine ready, because those guys are going to be heavily relied on. A Hovorka, a Mike Benning, getting those guys ready for when they are ready to take that step into the show. And nights like these for the Panthers could possibly make the difference as far as just overall confidence and learning at the same time. Learn something from it. It was ugly. And like I said at the very top, overwhelmed and outmatched. But that wasn't going to stop this team from fighting. And yeah, it results in a win. You don't apologize for winning. Definitely don't. But that's going to do it for today's edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. Tomorrow, Nick Fairbanks will be returning for another edition of Fairbanks Friday as we are going to continue the discussion of the Florida Panthers as the veterans will be back with the team tomorrow. And Paul Maurice's training camp, the intensity is going to crank it up a notch as the Panthers, the bag skates, the board battles, the heart, just going hard for the Panthers. And we're going to discuss that and more on tomorrow's show. So be ready because the guys who have experienced it, they will be ready. But the guys who haven't experienced Paul Maurice's intense training camps, they're definitely in for one. So can't wait to see the reaction from the newbies as far as what the veteran guys get to experience. But thank you guys always for listening. And in the meantime, if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast to be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Don't forget to also subscribe to the other shows on the Locked On NHL Network, including Locked On NHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey with Flip Livingstone and Steel Roden, and Locked On NHL Prospects. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. So Armando Velez signing off. And you've been listening to Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We're your team every day.